Welcome back to the Uncommon Professor, boys and girls. Today I'm going to tell you about my politics.
You sure that's a good idea, Chief?
I don't know.
You're going to get canceled for this.
I don't want that to happen.
I don't either, jackass.
All right, before I get myself into deep trouble here, a couple things. One of the things I'm going to tell you about my politics is I promise to be honest with you. And one of the ways that I describe this podcast is it's me out of context. It's me in the real world. I can be a little more free with what I say, but I should ask you if you wouldn't mind subscribing to this channel. That'd be awesome if you did. Also, to remind you, it is brought to you by my book, How to Avoid in College. If you're really adventurous, read this book. I wrote this as well. This is about a horrific shooting on a large campus. So let me get started here. The first thing you need to know is, does politics ever come up in my class? The answer is hardly ever. It doesn't. I teach computer information systems, business data analytics, AI, all that stuff. So I don't do it. The other reason is I don't want to. I'm not trying to influence anybody one way or another. I don't want to influence anyone. I'm not an influencer. But this is my podcast. It's podcast 15. It's out of order, so not a big deal. So without further ado,
Last chance, dude. Don't do this.
shut up. Let me start here. I am what you would call an absolute constitutionalist.
God, you're
It
pretentious.
is. I've looked into this pretty closely. I don't like to identify as red or blue or left or center or middle. So let me tell you what that is. So the interpretation basically of a constitutionalist, it's someone that basically says, look, I tend to interpret the Constitution in a strict and literal manner. I emphasize the original meaning and the text as intended by our framers. And so conversely, I reject flexible or evolving interpretations of the Constitution. I got that from one of the first people that's on my little thumbnail, Justice Antonin Scalia. And he will explain to you is that our government did not confer rights to us. Our government protected the rights we already have. So that's generally what he did. But on the other hand, I am not completely inflexible. If you look at the thumbnail, you will see the great and powerful Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who did basically use flexible and evolving interpretations to win priceless rights for women. One of the greatest justices we've ever had. So one of the things I do is I go down these rabbit holes on lots and lots and lots of things. So let me go farther. I believe in limited government, and when I believe in limited government, I mean really limited. Had I had enough room on that thumbnail, I would have included Senator Barry Goldwater, who was absolutely a limited government.
Use your words, Scooter.
I'm using my words. Who was absolutely a limited government person. So much so that he would say, people would say, what do you think about abortion? And he would go, I don't think it's a federal issue. I think it's a state issue. And if your state has pro or not, or it's legal or not legal, then move to another state that suits you better. Here's another one, natural rights. So basically, I emphasize the protection of individual rights and liberties in the Constitution. I do believe it that much. So basically, it says I don't want my government having overreach. I want to preserve my fundamental freedoms. Another way to put this, I've heard it called originalism. So basically, I'm not an attorney, but I align with a philosophy that basically asserts the meaning of the constitutional provisions should be determined based on their origin. So kind of the same thing as the strict interpretation. Here's one. I'm if I'm inflexible on something, it's this, and I'm fairly rigid on it. It is I oppose judicial activism so badly. I think that is one of the most un-American things that you can do. Now, I'm not going to talk about this willy-nilly bullshit media stuff where they're talking about lawism or whatever they're calling it, and I'm not going to go there because the media doesn't deserve that. But basically, what I'm saying is, I advocate for judicial restraint and decisions grounded in text, like previous decisions and the history of the Constitution. That's your job. If you're doing anything beyond that, you are I'm not going to use the F word, you are a hypocrite. I don't even know what you're thinking. You've become such a narcissist.
Easy, Tiger. You're going off the rails, dude.
You're right. I'll stop. Let me get down off my soapbox. Here's the other one. It's kind of like the other ones. I criticize the living constitution theory, that it's somehow a living body and somehow it's going to evolve, because how in the world could this old document address things that happen today? So, for instance, I just don't hold that they should be interpreted in a light of social norms and values of today. No, it was pretty damn good when we got it, and I think it's really good now. So I don't know. One of the reasons I put this out is a lot of parents kind of want to know what a professor's politics are. I don't know if that was a good answer with you, but I can tell you, damn right, it was an honest answer. That's how mine worked. Now, let me talk about something that you might not like. I say this somewhat off the cuff sometimes. People ask me what my religion is. I either have one of two answers. It's none of your damn business. Or the other one, I say, I'm an economist. So when I go down these deep dives, like on YouTube or reading or whatever I can do, and I'm talking about deep dives. I once went down a deep dive on Mount Everest one time because I couldn't understand why in the world you do that. So I know the entire history of it. It's very, very interesting. But I do that when I look at this kind of stuff. So when I look at economists, I look at what I think are American treasures, American giants, really. These are the people who were standing on their shoulders. If you looked at the 6 people that I put out front, 3 of them are economists. Dr. Walter Williams, just an absolute pioneer, an incredible author. Dr. Thomas Sowell, just, oh man, I could not carry that guy's jock. It's funny because I look at some of the guys on of the list I put on there, and to call myself a professor in the same breath as calling them a professor is somewhat of that's a big disservice to them. And of course, the king is Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman said stuff in the 60s and 70s that's not just kind of true today. It's true today. These are people well worth listening to, and they have a huge diversity of thought. And let me finish up with this one, and I feel kind of bad because I don't think anyone's going to listen all the way.
Anyone? No one's listening here anyway.
You could be right.
I am right.
Shut up.
You shut up.
Grace Hopper, or as they called her in the Navy, Admiral Grace Hopper. It's funny the way people go through history and are really unrecognized, and you don't realize that you're standing on their shoulders. So, for instance, one of the things that she invented, she's the mother of computers and programming. She is absolutely brilliant. And when the programming was too clunky back in her day, she's basically credited with inventing the first languages of computing that could be compiled, like COBOL. That was her. And she kept going and kept going. And I don't know how old she was when she retired, but unbelievable person. So ask me questions. I must be doing better because I am getting complaints. I'm getting a couple of you're not fit to be a professor kind of stuff, but that's fine. You won't see it in the comments because one of the things you can do with a podcast that's not that old is delete them. I'm not playing your bullshit cancel game, Becky. Other than that, thanks for stopping by. Peace.